evening, everybody out there. We are here on Old Gray Bricks. Monday, not so messy, but Lego Masters discussion. Chris will not be joining us tonight. His family had to say goodbye to the beloved pet. Their dog, Bo, was very sick, and they had to say goodbye to him this evening. So we are wishing them peace and love and hope that they will feel better soon. Moto is already being the copyright police or something. I don't know. I blame Chris. He's not here, so
throw him under the bus.
Throw him under the bus.
The buses. All the buses.
So yeah, in the chats we get Old and Surly, Moto, Zisu, Pink Wheels, Brian Anderson. Hello to all of you. Good evening.
Evidently, Meredith is not feeling very sociable to come and hang out with us this evening.
I need to do the. Am I driving this thing? Do I need to do the?
I've nominated you to drive.
Okay. Because I have to backstage, like pull up the photos on the drive and that whole deal.
I mean, I can do the photos.
Also in the chat, there's Emily. Hey, was Emily going to join us? Emily, were you going to join us?
I don't know. I don't know if Chris linked her in yet. Were we also saying that we would have them join once they got kicked out? So Emily will probably be the last person to get kicked out. Oh no, wait, there's a Canadian. No, forget it. She'll be a second last.
Oh,
there were a couple of emails exchanged in our group
okay.
The other day. She might join us, but I don't know.
I get to wear the beanie for this evening's show, so there we go.
Very good.
But yes, I can. Do you want me to do pictures? I can do pictures.
Okay, that sounds fine.
I'll do pictures. Let's see. I don't think where did I put them? The drive. For me, it won't be the drive this night. It will be just Windows. However,
while you're working up that, those of you who are around on Thursday, I finally got the piece to finish my my Trauma AV. So I was very excited. It was this windshield. So it's now
piece to the resistance.
So there it is. It's very pretty. So I got the done, and Simon got super excited about it and was like, "OMG, I want that!" And like, "Can I trade you mocks?" and all this stuff. So
all the stuff.
I knew Simon was going to be really excited about it, but yeah, he was very excited.
Very excited. Entire screen. Share.
So, what else is going on with you guys? Jeff, what's happening with you?
For me, a lot of digital work. I'm well, hold on. I can just fake share screen here.
Here, I'm going to unshare that for a minute, Dana, so Jeff can
main model. I'm building my my office. I'm just waiting for it to compile here. And I'm, that's roughly 5 floors of the build so far that I'm working on and trying to figure it all out. Basically my office is right in front of the train station and the hotel that I had built that I brought to Alabama a few years ago. So it's just the next, the next thing in the city. And after this will be the formerly known as the Air Canada Center, but Scotiabank Place where the Leafs play and the Raptors play. So, because that building's right beside my office. So, anyway, that's what I've been working on, really, mostly digital stuff. So,
that's as much as Jeff will talk about hockey on the show.
Pretty much. So, yeah.
Fever says "Piece d'ambulance."
Piece d'ambulance. Very French. Very Canadian.
Very good, Matthew. Anything exciting with you?
Grab it.
Well, while he's grabbing that, I built these yesterday. These were fun. The
the
little E-wing fighter, and then Shin Hadi's little very World War II. It almost feels like an N1 fighter kind of hybrid kind of thing, which is kind of cool. But the E-wing is cool. And what I liked about the E-wing is that it's got some landing gears that fold up, which I was very excited about. So very cool. And of course, I love the little Ukrainian droid, which is fun.
Mhm.
Okay. And we got a dark blue
I was
helmet.
thinking about getting the E-wing and possibly doing the conversion so it has the third blaster on top.
That would be cool too. So, all right, Matthew, what you got? What do you got to show us?
So I am a fan of the Ninjago City. I'm also a fan of the Ninjago underwater stuff. And I bought this quite a while ago, but it's the big underwater hippie thing. And of course, it opens up.
It's called a submarine.
Is that what they call it? I should know. I'm half man, half merman. You'd think I would know that. But and of course, inside, you've got your little, without destroying it, you got your little subs, little tiny subs,
Little subs.
micro subs. And so they go in there. I like the build. I like the look of it. My only complaint is that it's kind of fragile. Like, if you don't pick it up just right, pieces pop off. And I don't know. As I get older, that gets annoying because I don't want to rebuild the thing. Every time I move it, it's like, another wing just popped off. Right? Why couldn't that attachment point have been better? I will say that's one thing that I increasingly notice when building official sets is some sets are very durable and quite swooshable, and other sets are not very swooshable, and they come apart if you look at them wrong. So, but I like this, and I am thinking about how, so on the wall behind me, so over here is like my Ninjago world where I've got Ninjago City, and I've got some of the underwater sets from the Ninjago movie, and I'm just looking up there going, I might have to rearrange some things so that I can put all the underwater stuff on a different shelf or something like that. But I do like it. I am sitting here. I did purchase a couple of really big sets, so I have kind of in the back of my mind, the Venator is sitting downstairs and the Titanic is sitting downstairs. And I really, really, really want to crack those babies open, but I also have too much going on, and I don't want to start until I can actually really keep building. So, I don't know if I'm going to push it all the way back to Thanksgiving break, but I'm getting a hankering to either start on the Titanic or the Venator. One of my Facebook friends just started building the Titanic, and so he's posting like daily progress pictures. And every time I see it, I was like, oh, I want to start it. But there's like Halloween decorations all over the living room. And like, it's like, if I start getting all those poly bags out, I'll have to sort them, and it'll need an assembly area, and it'll be a multi-week process. Like, just.
So I got a question, because I do that too. Where your friend's doing that, like if I'm doing a big build that's kind of iconic, whether it be like, one of the Star Wars UCSs or something like that, and I'll post every bag as a story or something like that on Instagram or whatnot. Do you guys like that? Do you think is it annoying? Is it what's your appetite to want to build something, or is it more just like it's a passing thing and it's you take it or leave it, or kind of feeling?
If it's just when the set comes out, it's annoying because everybody's doing it, right?
It's true.
Months later,
right?
Then I don't think it's as bad.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's one pick per day, I'm just like, oh, that's fine. I see what Dana's working on, or I can see what Jeff's working on. If it's like each bag and you do 5 bags a day, that might get annoying. Maybe like, okay, like, can you just roll all that together in a way?
Well, that's why I think I do it as stories, because you can just click through them real quickly as opposed to scrolling. I don't know.
Got it.
And not everybody looks at stories anyway, so that's also the other reason to do it for that. So, but yeah, no, it's fun. I like to do it. But all right. Oh, look.
One last thing. One of the things that I like about these sets, I love the little like the underwater creatures. So this is like the squid head guy, and he's riding like the sleigh, but it's propelled by the whatchamacallit?
Manta ray.
Thank you. The decorated manta ray. So like this is a nice little.
I think that's a chariot.
There you go. A manta rariot.
Manta rariot.
All right, I'm done.
Very well. Well, that's our little spin around the room, so we could go to Dana's lovely photos that he's pulled for us.
In the very cruddy, I don't even think these are 720. I think they're 480.
No,
The screenshots I got.
okay. We do the best we can.
Yeah. So here we go.
Yeah, this week was the two teams that got broken up, and each one of them built each one of the. They had two big teams made up of the smaller teams.
Mhm.
Team Cirque and Team Soleil.
Yes, and each smaller team built a quadrant of the Cirque du Soleil display. So,
and so here we have. So this was, I believe, this was Team Cirque. You know what? I'm going to
no, Team Soleil, because they were doing sun.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
French. By the way, Cirque du Soleil, another Canadian product, for the record.
Yes. And so this was Christopher and Robert's flying act, and everybody was required to have power functions in their builds, so that was a big thing. And then coordinated. Each team had one was acrobats, high wire, something else, and something else. I forget. I'm really bad. I even just watched this episode this morning, so. But so here we go. So we got Soleil. So, and I believe this one had where the sun and the moon creatures, that's how their characters were. That's what's circulating across the top. Thoughts, feelings on this particular portion of the build?
The globes were spinning, or the planets were spinning, right?
I believe that's fun. This is one of those ones where I really wish I had done, video captures instead, because everything has got so much movement. But yes, I believe the planets also moved. Good spheres, good low spheres. Gotta like that.
Yeah, that looks good. If I had one criticism, I would say if they could have suspended the acrobats from a frame that was integrated into the upper sort of wall frame thing, so it didn't have the arch.
Right.
Yeah. I think that would be, because to me the orange and red arch is a little distracting, but that's an offhand reaction based on.
But sorry, that arch looks really thin. Was it actually supporting those?
I don't know.
They were on strings, I guess, or rope or something coming down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that black and gray area behind was what was supporting them. I
thought that too, so I'm not 100% sure, but maybe that arch does hide or hold, or it probably does help support, because even if the support arm is coming out, it may have sagged a little bit, so they may have needed that little additional to keep it up.
Yeah,
which is entirely possible.
Emily's saying she thinks it was both. So
yeah. And Moda pointed out real quick that elimination was removed from this competition because of power. Or, normally if there's a power function, elimination is removed because they tried. Even though it hasn't always been the case, but the fact that power function was our requirement and we got no elimination. However, I'd also like to point out that on Thursday I pointed out, or maybe it was last Monday, I pointed out that there was nobody going home this week.
Yep.
Because then they did the two big teams like they did with the go-karts. Nobody went home. So I digress.
I mean, hypothetically, they could have, because
they could have sent somebody home. They could have.
Just because the way it worked out, everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, while I thought that both were really done well, and we can cover that as we get full and go through in here. I still think that I'm still calling shenanigans, because the fact that Amy and Jamie said that they couldn't choose a winner.
Yeah, that was so staged.
Yeah, I don't know. And the fact that they already had the flag and everything, I don't know. They did have, so Lewis is saying they did have several power function requirements on several builds this season already. So the fact that it was a power function didn't require that they couldn't send somebody home. So still calling shenanigans. But so this was fun. So we'll move on to the next one. So here we have Lewis, who's in the chat. We have Lewis and Alex High Wire Act. Now, this one, I mean, I call shenanigans already. Well, not shenanigans, but I'm already going ahead and saying that this was my favorite build.
Yeah.
out of all of them. And not to diss Aubrey and I forget their winning build, which was great, and because they brought all the stops out for the motion, but this one was so freaking cool because of the alternating of the rails on the side for the guys to slide back and forth, and then having the planet, the galaxy in the background spinning was fantastic. It was very visually appealing, very, very, very cool. I got to say, across the board, all of these, because they were joined together and they had, kind of a collaborative build, the colors across the board all had a nice consistency feel to them, and both teams did a fantastic job on that as we go through. I will say, though, that I did like the Soleil's color feel better of the two, even though they both did a great job. So, anybody else got some thoughts and feelings on this one?
Well, just on the Soleil side, their approach to the whole project was a lot better too, because they broke down and, like one group built all 4 bases and one group built the stars and the moon and things like that. So they all worked together to get the consistency of their mock to look right with everybody else.
And it did. It looked just fantastic. It was, to see a collaborative build done like that and that quickly was fantastic. Very, very difficult to do, and they did it all very, very well.
Yeah, the motion on this was really good. If I had one nitpick, it would be that the stars in the background there are too many of them in lines, and you can really see the lines from a distance, and they needed to be scattered a little more. But that's just a tiny little nitpick. It's just a little thing, just to something that caught my eye.
Nope. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
My thought on this one was when they came up with the different subcategories. So there were 4 different things that had to be displayed. When they explained this initially in the episode, my immediate response was, I would not want to do the high wire act, because I was thinking about just, especially if you're going to have motion and stability. And it struck me that there's probably the most technically challenging of the 4 categories. And when I saw what Luis and Alex did, I was very impressed that it brought in that sort of sun-moon relationship, and it's got this kind of balance going on.
Yeah.
And the motion worked well. It was visually attractive. It got your attention. So tip of the hat here to Luis and Alex, because I was like, I would not have wanted that particular quadrant, and they did it better than I would have imagined. So I thought it was great.
Yep. I agree. All right, moving along. We have Poppy and Ben's balancing act. This one, great figure work. And I don't know if they broke up the figure work, or because I think they did break up the figure work. The figure work on all of these were fantastic. This one, I think it had alternating rotations. So like the people in the middle were spinning one direction, and then the synchronized swimmers were all spinning in a different direction. So it was very cool. And again, just, consistency with across the board. The consistency was great. I definitely liked it. So. Oh, and then so all 3 directions. So I think there was also something moving. I think they were also moving up and down, or something was moving up and down. I think that was the other thing, which was cool. So.
This one didn't really get any showtime, though, like the finished product. Like they only did 2 of each team, which I thought was really annoying.
Well, they gave it enough where I got this, but it popped by.
See, I didn't even see these screens come up with the people with their names on it.
They were quick. They were quick on most of them. So, all right. So moving along, and this was actually the first, but for whatever reason they showcased it last. I don't know. So Nina and Sam's contortionist. That was the one. That was the word I was trying to look for. This one surprised me in how well it came out, because all the figures just being in different poses, but them all spinning in different directions. And Sam did some. I know that he was stressing out about the gear work on this one, but because contortionist just sounds strange. I would have been trying to do one big character with weird motions going on. Taking all these static figures and making them spin if you've ever been to Circus Soleil and how they do that and the weird, cool things that they do, this really had that feel to it. So, and the fact that Pink Wheel says it was too busy just goes to show that she and I have been on odds on everything today. Whenever we chatted about any sort of,
I'm going to have to agree with Mayor, just that there are so many figures that it's a little hard to distinguish.
Yeah.
Well, they're all in there really close together.
Yeah,
especially in high res quality that we have.
But the high res quality doesn't help, and also the motion. Again, it's the motion that I'm missing in all of this. Is that moving is just it's mesmerizing by seeing them all moving is what really does it for me.
Yeah. Just as an aside, Emily and I were just having a chat about this in the chat here. The fact that the teams weren't really that well evenly divided. Like there was a lot of stronger teams on Soleil side, and I won't say the weaker teams, but there were a lot of winning teams on the other side, like from past events, right?
Right.
Of course,
people who are in the top two each week are really heavy on one team versus the other. That's true. That is
kind of interesting how randomly that happened. I mean, it was, you pick a card and that's what you get type thing.
Yeah.
So,
which, it can go either way. Which
I agree. When the teams were separated out, I was like, "Oh, I think this could be pretty lopsided." But I thought actually both hit the nail on the head, and I didn't think it was lopsided when they were finished.
Right. Which also, I mean, and I normally would. I mean, that's why I called it that they wasn't going to send anybody home because they were doing a team build, and I know that they touted it as well. If your team is the winning team, then everybody on that team is safe from elimination. I still think they could. I mean, not that I want to see somebody sent home, but I still think they could have sent somebody home, and they still could have came across with a consensus of the winning team. I still feel that they already knew going into it nobody was going home, and I think, granted, it all goes into the mind game that Lego Masters is playing with the contestants, because again, they're stressing out through this whole competition, thinking somebody's going home, but nobody's going home, and they know that from the get-go. It's a way to create drama and create more anxiety because the big giant clock on the wall isn't doing it enough for them, obviously. So they need to add some more stress to their their building time. So
Dana just wants to see Amy cry because she cried while not sending anyone home.
I mean, exactly. And Will even told her, listen, you can't cry. Nobody's going home. Right. So, which is funny. It's still funny. Again, I hate seeing anybody go home because it sucks. It's horrible, but somebody's got to go home. I hate it. But anyway. All right. Any more to talk about this one, or we'll move on to
I've got one last comment, which was, I can't remember now if this was, and I've missed a couple episodes, chats and stuff. I don't know. I missed the last one, but I know at one point I was either talking after our show or during our show, and I was talking about Sam and Nina as a team and commenting on, I think I may have been chatting with Tim after the show where they got eliminated and commenting on just the sheer volume of stuff that team is able to lay out. And maybe it was Tim, maybe it was in the show, maybe it was after, but he said something about that Sam and Nina worked extremely well together, and that some of the time Sam would build the prototype of like, okay, I want it to look like this, and Nina would like churn out like, okay, we'll do more of that. And there was actually one clip in this episode where they showed that you could see him working on that arch piece.
Yeah.
And he's like figuring out how much of the arch and where it's going to connect. And, I'm assuming that off camera, what we didn't see is, maybe he handed it to her, goes, like, we need it on both sides. Can you build the second part?
Right.
And we did see them having conversation about how they had put a lot of work into the structural elements for their square layout. And perhaps somebody in the chat who was there can comment upon sort of how the division of labor worked, but it seemed like they were super stressed out that they had taken on a bigger role in the structure and not just the motion, and it ended up working out fine in the end. But I will say that I was pleasantly surprised at the cohesiveness of both teams. I really expected more of a train wreck where, one 2-person team would use like pink and red, and the next one would use a different color scheme. I thought the color scheme coordination was surprisingly good.
Yeah.
And the unit to unit, the display backdrops were surprisingly cohesive. And so I'm assuming that there was a lot more chatter and discussion within the teams that we didn't get displayed, because obviously that doesn't happen by accident. You don't luck into wearing
Amy and Jamie did say that their coloring had to be like the same across all the models as well, right? So they did. That was one of the requirements, I think. So
Yeah.
In the mermaid, like the one that had like the 3 different shades of blue tiered, I thought it looked really good, especially from a distance.
Let's move on then. Okay. we'll talk about that. All right. So here we go. We're talking about Team Cirque, and here we first start off with Emily and Kelly's flying act. Again, so they the color schemes are going to be very similar across the whole board. And it was funny, and again, I mean, it's all the fun of the editing because, actually, I was thinking of different thing, but again, it's so weird to see them do these big team collabs because it's like you've got to build your thing and then think of everybody else around you, and it just seems in the time frame that they gave us very difficult to deal with. I mean, several people mentioned it in their side chats of that it's already difficult working with one person. Now you're working with 7 people, and all trying to stay cohesive. And until you have somebody who steps and says, and I think that's what probably Sam wound up doing is he kind of stepped up and said, all right, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. You do this, you do this, you do this. And they set off and running. And I think that's where we saw Team Cirque look over and go, whoa, look at them go. Because, and I think we talked about that a little last week, that, if you've got a partner and one of you isn't stepping up to take the lead of the team, you can flounder for a while and have some stutter steps, as I stutter into it, channeling a little Gil today. So, it can be hard to do.
Just to add to that, though, also on Sam's team was the Duck Bricks and the other guy. I can't think of their names right now. But I mean, they're project manager type people. Like in every one build they've had a plan and they've figured out, what do we got to need to do first. So I think having that plus Sam and Nina and stuff like that, I think that helped them, basically break it down into doable chunks, right?
Exactly. So I liked how this one turned out with this was the flying act. So I love how the brick built the little chicky gal is flying back and forth across the top, and then we've got some mermaids along the bottom that are. And again, I think some of the mermaids. I think the mermaid down below was also moving. I was trying to keep track of what things were and weren't moving, and my brain is stutter stepping on that one. Even if they had to use all that tan, they did a great job of still trying to give it some detail as opposed to just being a giant slab of tan brick, because we know that Amy hates giant slabs of tan and light gray. So good job there. Good, nice gradation in the background. Love that. Always a big fan of doing that. I like it.
And Sam's in the chat now as well.
Yay! So we can talk more bad about him in a minute. But
Emily had some comments about the teams within the teams, and she talked about it was very, very much a challenge. There was a comment here I wanted to highlight, but now I've lost
it. Make it a stage, not real life. I know. It's got to be a stage. Exactly. They want you to be like a stage. Yep. And you still made it look fun and exciting versus just being a normal stage, which is good.
Back to the Emily and Kelly, there's a lot of volume here. They put down a lot of brick and they have their motion. So, tip of the hat. I like this aesthetic on the bottom of the base where they circle and then they have the kind of square.
Yeah.
Obviously you have to pack a lot of stuff into the amount of hours that you have. And so they avoided it being just a straight square platform by breaking it up, and it comes out a little bit. It goes out with the pillars and it recesses a little bit with the circles. And so it breaks up that monotony. And you've got the detail with the rock work. I'm sure they would have loved to have more time to add even more to this stuff, but the variety of breaking up what could have been extremely blocky, they did a good job in squeezing as much non-monotony into that and getting their motion in. And I thought the colors worked pretty well. The only thing that I don't know, the castle in the water is a little okay for me. I'm sure, they would have loved to have like 5 more hours. It could have made a better underwater castle. But when I think about the kind of like castles that you see in aquariums, they often are very simple. It's not you get like a Jeff VW giant castle in an aquarium. You get a very stylized, simplified version of a castle.
I don't take requests, for the record.
And well, the funny thing is, now that you say that, and I think about that, and I always remember like the aquariums from when I was a kid, that actually that castle could have been done in like neon colors and would have been just as fun.
True.
It could have been done as that. So that would have been kind of something that would have been fun too.
The lattice structure that the lights are attached to, there's something colorful in both of them.
It's there. I believe there's many.
Are they minifigs?
I can't tell. And if when I would zoom in, I don't think. Emily, I know you're in the chat. What's in the structure? What's going up the structure? If you can tell us.
Mm-hmm.
And if so, we'll come back to that in comments.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll move along.
I'm not screaming, ha ha ha. I don't know what that's in reference to, but it's fun.
Oh, coral.
Oh, it's coral. Coral is okay. So it's more of the coral. It's growing up within the structure.
That makes sense. Okay, cool.
Well, if that's the case, then I would like to see the coral growing out of the structures and stuff like that too. But again, I'm being nitpicking. So, all right, moving on. So Allison and Melanie's balancing act. We got the hula hoops, which works. And now that I realize that the structure, and so the structure might have been a consistency across the lattice work for the lighting. So you're giving that whole. It's a prop. That's why. Okay, so Emily said it's a prop. It's the stage aesthetic feel. Mm-hmm. So that's why we got the lattice work with the lights. And again, the consistency with the background, keeping that consistent. The stage, while still being the same stage, it's definitely a difference between stages and still trying to keep that same look and feel, but yet still different. Mm-hmm. And again, still hard when you're trying to make something look cohesive together. And it looked like that each team wound up having to do this of saying, hey, all right, you figure out what the brick belt figures are going to look like, and we'll replicate those. And you figure out what the ground effects are going to look like, and we'll replicate those. So it really was a group effort, and props to them all for that. And again, that's probably why it made it even more harder for Amy and Jamie to decide which one was the best, and also to send somebody home, because they truly were big, giant collaborative works. Mm-hmm. Loved it. And we keep seeing more and more collaborative works in the AFOL community and at conventions. And this, again, while, seems to think they know how to do things better, allowing these great builders to work together is a great thing, but yet still keeping the fear of somebody's going home is just, I don't know. It's horror. I love it. I hate it. I love it. I hate it. Anyway.
So go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm laughing at Moto's last comment.
Process is a prop. Exactly.
So I will confess that initially when I heard the idea of the transformative mermaid, I was a little like, I don't know. But the execution of it was better than my expectation. So if they had used minifigs, it would have been too small. Yeah. And so going with kind of I don't know, is this mini land scale or super mini land scale? It's maybe
probably I think both of them kind of had super mini land or mini land-esque scaling style. Yeah.
And I was afraid, frankly, like, how are they going to show this transformation? Is it going to read like a mer person?
Right.
Are they going to be able to pull it off? But they did. And so if they'd gone with minifigs, it would have been too small. You wouldn't have noticed. You would have lost that. And by blowing it up, it had more impact. And building brick built figures is a challenge, and they pulled it off. And I would have been, if I were building in that team, I would have been nervous about, are these figures going to read like mer people?
Right.
Is it going to work? Is the audience going to go like, that's a terrible looking, mermaid or something? So
and again, not a lot of time to tinker with. So they had to come up with an idea, come up with a plan, get those things in line, and roll with it. Medium land scale. Because I'm sure that given more time, they might have even, and it also depends on the pieces in the brick bit, as to what you have to do for what they were able to scamper together in time and keep everything coordinated. I thought the brick built figures across both teams were done well.
I wish we'd had a little bit more of a chance to see like the coral and the underwater plant stuff.
Yeah.
In recent years, I've gone to conventions, and it seems like every convention I go to these days has at least one or two
Yeah.
beautiful coral reef displays.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you get it to build something for a convention, you have the time to order the parts, and you can do everything, and you have to work with what's in the brick pit. And I wish they could have given us a little bit more of a look at the extra stuff.
Yeah, which has been our complaint about basically every episode since season 1. So, all right, moving on. We have Paula and Nelita's High Wire Act. So again, across the board, we're still keeping the same consistency, the color scheme, great big brick built figures. Once again, and if I'm not mistaken, somebody can remind me or not, there is a train track.
Yep.
Up inside there, and that the power functions they're using to make so that we've got the high wire guy going across, and then the mermaid up there.
And there was a wire as well at that top point.
Yeah.
There is actually a wire strung across as well. So it does look like they're kind of walking on the wire. So
right. It does give the nice little illusion. Oh, which was also nice that we got Amy and Jamie, because they don't always do a little tips and tricks. And this episode, they did give us a little tips and tricks and talking about, using translucent pieces or some sort of motion. And then they even brought out one of the, is it a Tenzinger?
Oh, yeah.
The
Tensegrity?
Tensegrity
effect, which I thought was fantastic that they actually did that on TV. I was like, props to that. So here we got, while everybody was doing different power functions and throughout the whole bit, them using the train tracks up in here to use for the rail, to do that whole bit. That takes some time, takes some bricks, takes some stability, because that adds extra weight, and trying to get the timing down. And I know I've played with power function motors and gears, and it's either on or it's off at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tweak with it a little bit, but you've got to play around to get it to go if you want it to go at a slow motion. So definitely a trick to there. So that was a lot of interesting stuff to have to play around with in here. Yep, that's my thoughts. Guys, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, like this one's different than the others because it has the two pillars supporting the track and everything. But I mean, because it matches with the background color as well, like it's perfectly lined up, so it's not as visible, I guess. I mean, it is obviously, but
I mean, you're right. The fact that the gradations for the pillars are the same as the background. So if your mind actually eliminates the dark section, you actually feel that effect, and it's very staged well in that aspect. So I like it.
So, and the coral in here is really detailed as well. Like, it's a lot taller than some of the other corals that we've seen. So this gives it a little bit, like, it's a person turning into a mermaid. So, I mean, it doesn't mean it's all happening in the same area. So this is a different part of the ocean, right?
Different part of the story. So the ground effects may stay the same, but also evolve as they go from one place to another. So and Emily did mention that that Ryan did do the original prototype or the template for the mermaid as we go through the whole thing. So which we will talk about on Aubrey and Ryan's Contortionist Act. I feel for these two every time Amy and Jamie come to their table. Every single time. And I don't think that that's specifically just them. I think it's for everyone. But when Amy and Jamie come to them, for whatever reason, I feel more for them than I have for anybody else, because the things that the comments that are coming through, they take them to heart, and they're like, crap. So the fact that Amy and Jamie did give them the comments in the past about add more movement, and they literally broke out all the bells and whistles on this one. Everything's freaking moving. The plants in the backgrounds are moving up and down or spinning. I think they were the mermaids in the middle are spinning around. The one at the top is going up and down. Even the manta ray is also moving over on the side.
It was,
and again,
I want to say that I don't do power functions, and I would like to get better at it, but the movement in this build made me want to figure out how to do that. Like, I love this. And it's funny, like the static picture here, I think it doesn't look that great in the static picture, but seeing the movement, it's completely different. The vibe you get from it. Like, I wanted to see I wanted to lift the lid, and I was kind of curious, like, how did they get the gears? Because you know, if it all rose and fell at the same time, it would have not had the same effect.
Right.
And they clearly had things either staggered or countersynced, and so you had like some stuff going up and some stuff falling at the same.
Yeah.
And so they had this kind of seesawy thing going on, and I wanted. There we go. 9 movements with 7 different. I wanted to see how it worked, and I wanted to go upstairs in my Lego room and try to recreate it. And that's rare that I see a build that like gets me like, ooh, I'd like to play around. I want to try that. Like that makes me. And I've seen people where they did like the fighter airplanes in one of the other seasons where the fighter airplanes had the movement and stuff like that. That was another time where I've seen movement on a Lego Masters, and I thought that looks fun. Like I want to know how they pulled that off. I'd like to sit there and experiment and figure out how to make that work. So tip of the hat. I love the movement on this.
And I think in this aspect where they did very little extra choral work, because they probably spent more time on that motion work, and it paid off.
Yeah,
it completely paid off. If anything, by not having more ground choral or whatever, probably would have distracted from the movement. So I think it actually worked well in their favor by doing less on the aesthetics and more on the movement, and it knocked it out. I meant to point this out, and I was waiting till we got to this one because this picture shows it specifically. Utilizing the leaves to color the breasts of the mermaids. Perfect execution. And because we still got that feel with still keeping it PG-13. And yeah, again, the mermaids were really well done.
There was no mermaid wardrobe malfunctions.
And I was just going to say that if their motion hadn't have worked, then the lack of choral and stuff like that could have.
Yes. That is a very valid point. That if this had been a concern that motion wasn't going to work, then yes, that would have been a negative effect by not having more. And again, we've seen this. You know, that's what happened to Jordan and Christopher. You know, their motion didn't work, and that was key. Even though they had this great looking desert scene, but if the motion didn't work, everything, you know, that was it. So motion was key for this one. It worked. It paid off, and they're going to Vegas to see Cirque du Soleil. So.
And I do, Dan, I think you make a good point here about trade-offs. Like in the still picture, it looks sparse, I would say. But seeing that with motion, it didn't feel that way at all.
And actually, all of these have a very sparse feel to them. But because of the motion, you don't think about that when you're actually watching it on the episode. And it's unfortunate because, you know, we're not doing video and we should. But yeah, the motion really is drawing you in and making the story go through it in the whole bit. So, all right. So we know that, how do we get back up from this? We know that, there was no winner. They couldn't decide. Amy and Jamie, the first Lego Masters tie, because they couldn't come up with a solution as to what team was going to win. So therefore, no team was winning. So there was no reason to say somebody was going home. So there was no elimination. They still gave us the top build, which was Aubrey and Ryan's. And again, as I said, they blew out all the bells and whistles for the motion and movement. So if that was Amy and Jamie's reason for it, I think it was justified. However, I think that Lewis and his teammates build with the alternating and the sliding.
Yeah.
For me, that was doing something unique and creative and something that we hadn't seen. I don't think I've ever seen something like that in even a mock on Instagram or Facebook or even a show. That was just something that was very unique and stood out very, very well to me. And so that's where I would have put them into the top. But it would have been close. It would have been close, but that would have been my top build.
Now, historically, even though they didn't send someone home, they would normally pick out a couple of teams that had the weaker builds.
Well, and because they didn't send somebody home, there was no reason to.
But I'm saying even in the events that they didn't send someone home on those shows, they still would critique some of the weaker builds. And
And I have a feeling I think I know why. This is where I'm calling shenanigans even again. And this we should just title this episode Lego Master Season 4, Episode 5, Shenanigans. Because they basically built into the challenge to have them work together.
Yeah.
And therefore you couldn't send anybody home. Yeah. Because the division of labor, which we saw happen and which was essential for the requirements of having the color uniformity, having the overall look and aesthetic and feel everything looking together. There was no way that you could judge any one of these builds outside of their power function because there was templates. There was things that they were doing across the board. There were little bits in every build by more than one team.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to disagree. I have been a steady watcher of Project Runway, which loves team challenges. There's like, it's a regular feature and it always produces drama, and the judging in that particular reality TV show is they'll say, okay, you know, what was the winning team? What was the losing team? And then typically what they do in the losing team is like, okay, well, who took the lead on this and that and that? And they'll go through, and whatever part of the losing team they most hated, that's typically the person who gets sent home. So, I mean, there is a way to judge team challenges. Mm-hmm. We haven't really seen it on Lego Masters, but It's not as though it's impossible to do. But what I noted in the way that they shot it is that in the Project Runway world, if you take the lead and your team comes in second, a lot of times you're the person that goes home. And It seemed that nobody quite wanted to say, I'm stepping up and taking the lead. So, for example, I mean, my perception was that for Nina, that Sam in particular worked on some of the structural architectural type stuff for the backdrops. Mm-hmm. But I thought there was a clip in there where he said something like, well, I'm not really in charge. I'm just working on this aspect. And so I don't know if the contestants thought that if anybody was the leader, that they were at risk of going home. Maybe that figured into the psychology, or maybe it had no impact whatsoever.
Because maybe there are some Lego fans who are Project Runway fans, just like you, who may have thought, "Oh, I don't want to be the one who says I'm in charge because if we don't win, that means I'm going home." Or probably possible.
Maybe if you're in the losing team, you want to say, "I'm just a worker bee."
Right. Yeah. And again, editing is always mischievous. We know we've seen this before, where editing can become a play. Emily's saying yes. That's why she didn't want to be the leader. So
I was going to say, was it also maybe in the rules of, you know, work together, don't assign a leader, or maybe I'm just
I don't know. Again, we get this very weird editing that can take us down one primrose path or another of what's going on and what shenanigans they want us to buy into and believe. But again, I still felt, even just from the get-go when they announced that they were doing a team build, and while I don't watch Project Runway, I felt like, okay, yeah, this is going to be they're not sending anybody home. So that's what I got.
So you're saying there should be a Lego Project Brick, Lego Plateway show or something?
No,
but they could do an entire season where it's teams. I mean, they could do that. In fact, one season of Project Runway, it was like all teams all the time, and the contestants were all like, "Oh my god!"
Right.
Which you have to share our vision with 4 other people. It's such a pain in the butt.
Yeah. No. And I don't want to get into the whole. It's already enough of a trauma to get on this show in the first place, and then now you're no longer even worrying about your skill set. You're worrying about somebody else's skill set outside of your immediate control for your fate of whether you're making it onto the next week to the next week. So that would definitely cause, I think, a lot of people would be like, nope.
So what, and maybe Emily will comment on this, or Luis, but one of the things I wish we had seen more of is that initial conversation when they broke up into teams. And we did see a little bit of like, let's do mermaids, let's do, the sun and the moon, the stars. Like we saw them resolve on a theme. I would have liked to see when we're throwing stuff at the wall and just spitting out ideas, like which idea got picked, because that's one where you could see people, if their suggestion wasn't adopted by the group, being a little disgruntled, or, well, this wasn't my idea.
So you're asking for more drama.
Well, I mean, I actually think that that's not I mean, it's a structure of drama, but like it's a genuine group choice, right? Anytime you have a group of people and you can only do one thing or maybe two things,
right,
somebody's preference is going to win out and somebody's going to lose out. And so how do you incorporate that stuff? And it was striking to me how cohesive these things were. And we didn't see that one team that just went off and kind of did its own thing. And you're like, somebody wasn't playing with the team. Like everybody seemed to be on the, cooperating, which surprised me. I actually thought we would see some one-man band displays where you're like, one of these doesn't fit with the rest of them, but we didn't see that.
And maybe that's what they were hoping for as well. But both teams decided to, like both groups decided to collaborate over, just make it look similar.
Because we have seen in other seasons other teams who were definitely not team players with the rest of the crowd. Yeah, with the rest of the crowd. And so, I can think of one particular team who might have said, well, Amy Jamie wants to do this, but I think that they're wrong and I want to do this. And the team is all going to think this way. So I'm going to do my own thing. And that would have created, uncohesiveness, and there would not have been a 2-team tie, and they would have sent somebody home from that team. Emily did say it would have been nice for them to say, hey, nobody's going home. Take your risks. That's the Christmas episodes.
Yeah.
That is the Christmas episodes, which I think some of those were more fun in some ways because there wasn't that feel of that somebody was going home. And so that the true AFOL on the celebrity duo team was able to say, all right, let me try something that maybe will or won't work, because I know if I don't do it well on this one, I can come back and do something again for the next challenge. So there is something to be said for that. There's definitely something.
So Luis has an answer. He says Soleil came up with our concept very quickly. I think we started building after like 15 minutes. Sam, correct? 15 minutes is impressive. I mean, we can try to get 8 people to agree in a restaurant, and it could take longer than 15.
They fed off the name of their team, right? Like,
right,
they did.
They had Soleil. It's like, well, Sun and Moon. There you go. Like like to me, that would have been a lot easier. And I know, like for the other team, Emily had said, well, the only Circus du Soleil I've seen was underwater, and that was the only idea we really heard.
Right.
Like was those 2 ideas from both teams. So there might have been other ideas, and maybe that's like maybe Emily's team we're getting started because of that.
Yeah.
Well, as Emily points out, when you pull on certain things, people fall in line. So
yeah. Sometimes I rub off on this crowd, and sometimes they rub off on me. So that works both ways.
We got our entendre.
Your mom rubbed off.
Doubles, triples, even. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it is surprising that if they were able to figure out what they wanted to do and come to that cohesiveness and within 15 minutes to be off. I mean, I'm sure they didn't know exactly how everything was going to work, but at least having that rough idea to segregate and subdivide and conquer would be the way to do. Yeah. Oh, well, that's just because my eyebrows are very light to begin with, but
he's going for the full chemo sympathy treatment.
Going for the full chemo sympathy. Well, actually, that's not entirely true, because I was actually not trying to have my hair to be visible today, because as I will share it now, it is green.
Oh yeah, okay.
So there you go. That is why I have shaved and I have green hair. Tomorrow is Halloween. There you go. So.
And now you have a green hat.
And nope, hat is fine.
Okay.
That is fine. The hair has been green since Friday.
I will say that we did get a little inkling of perhaps some team tension early on in the episode, where they were talking about the colors in the backdrop. And there was a little bit of like, oh no, it's got to be this and this and this. And it seemed like there were a couple glances exchanged where maybe they were like, oh, I don't really know, but like whatever had to be worked out was worked out, because the final product looked great.
Yeah.
And,
I thought that's always editing, because you never know if that particular piece was at the same editing point or not. I don't know. It's like I almost want to watch the show with the sound off, except for I will miss some entertaining things, because I just want to see what they build, but I'm never going to be happy with the show. There's things I'm not going to like and things I like. So it's weird.
You're just so cynical, and you wouldn't get all of Will's,
No,
wordplay.
I wouldn't get all the puns, the dad jokes galore. I mean, come on.
So I will say, Dana, that when we're watching at our house, and we watched the episode yesterday, because like you, I prefer to watch it closer to when we're going to talk about it on the screen. And I said before we even started, I said to my husband, I said, well, Dana predicted that no one's going home, so I guess we'll find out. And as soon as we got to the judging, Thomas was already like, yeah, he's like, I'm on Team Dana here. Like, I don't think anybody's going home. It's like, this is just false drama to try to gin up some anxiety. But he's like, nah. And he goes, if there was like a true train wreck, maybe they would have sent somebody home. But there were no train wrecks.
No. Yeah. I mean, if they were going to do, this is the Badonka Bonksana. If there was going to be a train wreck, they would have wanted. I mean, if they were going to, the train wrecks we've seen or the real obstacles we've seen are when the contestants don't have control over something. So if they wanted to like throw water into this as well to make something not work, that would have been maybe a train wreck. But no, I think this was maybe they were hoping that people wouldn't get along so well. But as we've been seeing and we've been hearing, they got to hang out almost a week before filming started.
Okay.
So there's some bonds there that have already been established even before they start filming. So that's going to make them even be a little more, I don't want to say on their best behavior, but there's probably less newness to the relationships. So it's a little easier to know what you can and can't say to certain people and, how things might work. I don't know.
Well, we're also 5 episodes in right now, so that's probably like 2.5 weeks in, I would assume.
No, I wouldn't. I'm thinking maybe we're about 4 or 5 days in.
No.
Really?
No.
Oh, well,
but they're 10 hour.
Every week is 2 or 3 days of filming, and there was like a week pre-filming boot camp. So we're in like week.
Oh, we're like 3 weeks in. Yeah. I mean, they've been together for 3 weeks at least.
They've been interacting with each other for a month at this point in the filming process. Sorry if I broke any trade agreements or disclosure. But the other thing though is that just as familiarity can breed cooperation, it can also breed aggravation. So if there were some members of the cast who were getting on the nerves of some other members of the cast, like this is maybe about the time where you would see the mask drop and a little bit of come out, and we didn't see that on camera. So
and the fact, that they want to make Christopher be the supervillain, and they've always been trying to do that because the Australian show had Kale, and he just rubbed everyone the wrong way and created drama just because of his sheer existence. And they've been trying to do that, but my perception of AFOLs in general is that we get along. I mean, even for some AFOLs who you just really don't want to deal with, and there are some, I'm not saying there aren't, there are some, but those don't seem to be the ones who want to go on TV and compete. It seems that way. I don't know. I mean, it's all speculative.
So I thought maybe Kale was edited to look like the bad guy on the Australian Lego Masters. And then I joined the sort lug, which is like this, around the globe, people on Friday night are sorting. And as the time shifts to Australia, people started hopping on, and Kale hopped on. And I actually didn't even connect that's who it was initially. And then he started talking, and I was like, no, that's exactly who he is. Like the way that I'm irritated already. And he's only been talking for 5 minutes.
Exactly. And like Lewis was saying, Chris was having fun playing the villain because it's obvious that he's not a villain. He is a genuinely good-hearted individual. He's a fan of the brick. So, he was having fun with it, and it was awesome to see, but we all knew that that's not really his whole shtick. Where Kale, he was a real villain. I mean, he even basically I heard that he got Dave Holder fired from being the master builder at the Lego Discovery Center or Legoland in Australia. Just because of, so the guy literally is just bad. Just bad. So that's all I got. Wait. What did Sam say here? Hang on.
9:00.
So Chris Chris wanted to be cast as the villain. All right, so maybe he is an evil genius. Maybe he is. Maybe he is.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. So,
But
but
we
yeah,
are
we are
right
at 9 o'clock.
hour, so this would be an excellent time to land the plane, as Chris would say. But thank you to everybody in the chat for showing up and having lots to say, and some good feedback from some of the contestants we've had in the chat, clarifying certain things or just giving us some information. Probably we'll see a few of them show up on our show in the coming weeks as things go along, so that will be fun. And we want to wish the best to Chris and his family. They had to say goodbye to their sweet doggy today, so lots of thoughts for them. And as Chris would say, be awesome and build awesome and be kind to your neighbor. And we will see you guys on Thursday. Everybody have a happy Halloween. And good night, everybody.
Good, everybody.